been a very busy day today. So I am obviously here in the greenhouse today with y'all. I have a package. Pretty sure I know what's in here, but not 100% sure because it's a little heavier than I expected. So it might be something else I ordered, which I also need. So I'm gonna open this really quick for y'all. I'm gonna work on a tree. But my last unboxing video, I didn't get a whole lot of views, so I don't want to do just a whole video on unboxing. I'm just gonna add it to this video here. And this is not at all what I expected, but it is also what I expected. So, so yeah, I have a ant problem, so I ordered some ant killer. So there you go, unboxing done. So that was really lackluster. All right, so let's get to the tree then. So I did some work on this tree. Fall time. I think it still had a couple of leaves on it. It looks like it's still alive. It hasn't really pushed, or any of the buds haven't started swelling yet, but it does still have buds. A lot of people probably say just scrape the trunk and see if it's alive. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just wait and see, because I'm pretty sure it's alive. Last year it took a little while for it to sprout leaves. So today what I'm going to do is, I did mention that I was going to repot this because you can see that the pot is cracked. It is one of those pots that the bottom stays on the pot, so I'm going to replace this pot with a different pot. And it was one that I had a different tree in that did not survive the freeze. So I got a pot that's free now. So I'll show you guys that pot. It is this guy. It's kind of an interesting shape. This is something I'm sure anybody that's been doing bonsai for any amount of time has probably seen this very same pot. It's a good sized pot. I don't know what the dimensions are. Pull out the tape measure. I'm kind of curious. So it's got a 11-ish inch inside, and it's got a 9-inch from here to here. And I'm not 100% sure. Nope, it doesn't have a crack. It's kind of freaking out there for a second. It looked like it had a crack, but it was just a hair. They're not cheap. This pot, I think, was maybe $45 or so. So it's not an expensive pot. It's one of the, it's a lower end pot, but it is ceramic. You can tell quality pot by putting your finger in the hole and making it ring. It's got a low bell tone to it, so this is not a high quality pot, but it is still ceramic, and I like it. It's cream color, and I think it looks good with this tree. This one's kind of greenish cream color. So really the only thing that I'm going to be doing to this tree today is repotting it. So I'm going to go ahead and start taking it out of this pot. Y'all saw it not too long ago on one of my videos where I did the wiring. I cut a couple of the branches off. So I'm going to put this big tray up here, and hopefully you guys can see something. I'll move the camera. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my pick. This isn't necessarily ideal for this, but this is what I got. So I'm going to use, where'd it go? This guy. This cool little tool that I got with a couple of pots. I'm going to use this to scrape the moss off the top here. I am going to get rid of the weeds out of this moss. It's always good for, if you're going to save the moss, to pull the weeds out of it while they're little. And I put it in a put it into a tote like this, and I keep that watered so I can reuse the moss later. I really don't need to pull all the weeds out of here. Kind of looking for moss to save if there is any left that's not completely corrupted with weeds. This is the time of year where if you are having issues with weeds in your trees, this would be a good time of year to make sure you pick the weeds before they seed, and you know, be really careful as to what's next to the tree, as to if they're putting seeds in your tree, that you just try to get rid of all the seeds out of it. So I'm going to go around the edge of this to get it free from the pot. This isn't really an ideal tool. They do make a metal tool that you can use. It looks like it's a sickle basically, and you just scrape it along the edge of the pot. This will work for what I've got here. This tree's only been in this pot for a couple of years now, so this should be able to break it free out of this pot. Basically, I'm just working the edge of the pot, because I think it does have a lip on it. Yeah, it's got kind of a lip, kind of like this pot does. So I'm trying to break that soil free in there. Like I said, this is not ideal. This feels very flimsy, and it is. I am trying to be careful because I don't want to break this pot the rest of the way. I might use it for something else. I'm going to wash it really good, and I'm going to I'll glue this. And I'm not sure if I'm going to try and take it off the base. I might not. I mean, that might be the death of the pot if I try and take it off the base. So I don't think I'll do that. Something that's crossed my mind in the past, but probably not such a good idea. And honestly, this tree does drain really well still. So, I mean, ideally, you wouldn't really need to repot it at this point because it still does drain really well. But because the pot is broken, that's the biggest reason why I'm doing this spring instead of like maybe next spring or the time after. Planting your trees in pots that don't have a lip on them make this a lot easier. So I'm going to try to knock this off without breaking the pot. Not quite. I'm going to start digging into the soil up here a little bit more. I'm going to try not to damage the roots as much as possible farther in. The outer ones, I'm probably going to cut those back a little bit. I think you can see all this. The roots are starting to come out here. Tip it, bending anything. I think this part of the pot's very broken now. That'll work. All right, I think most of this was already pretty well cracked. You can see algae like all the way around it. So okay, so now that part's done, I'm gonna get a smaller container to put this in. It's almost as big as the pot was. I'm going to attempt to remove as much of the weeds as I possibly can. And I'm gonna grab my compost bucket. I didn't grab that before. Alright, so I'm gonna try and remove as many of these weeds as possible. I might use my fork. I'm also looking at the surface root area of this to see if I want to make the soil level lower so that we can see more of the roots of this tree, or if I like where the root base is on this tree, I might just keep it where it's at. I'm going to take the top layer the top layer of soil off though, so that I can replace it. There's feels like a piece of root. Yeah, it feels like a piece of dead old root right here. I might see if I can work on that a little bit. I want to definitely get as much of these weeds out of the surface here as I can, so that when I repot it, I don't have to worry about weeds for at least a little while. Seems like the weeds blow around out here, and the seeds just blow up from the ground 10 feet in the air to get under your pot, or to get into the pot of your tree. This tree has put out a good amount of roots over the last, I think it's been 2 years, almost 3 years, I think, that I've had this tree. The root mat was like 5 or 6 roots when I first put it in this pot. It was not, when I dug it up, there was very few roots on the tree. So when I put it in the pot, obviously there was only a few roots in there, and I put it, I think I put it into potting soil the first year and just let it grow some, wild roots. And then I put it into this pot the second year. So I've had it in this pot for 2 years now. It's done well, but this year it seems to be a little bit slower putting leaves out, and it looks like there is quite a bit of organic material in the soil here. So that could be part of the reason it's holding too much moisture, or it might not be getting enough moisture to other parts of the tree. And it definitely looks like it's been holding too much moisture, because the base of it is still pretty sopping wet from the last time I watered, which was yesterday, and it's already evening time here, so it should be drying out by now. So I'm gonna remove some of the soil on the bottom also as I'm working on this. But yeah, this is a really good solid root mat. I'm really stoked about that. I wasn't exactly expecting this many roots on here, which I should have been expecting this many roots. I wasn't. So I mean, it's got this root that goes this way off to this side, and it goes off this way, and then this root seems to go down into the soil, which is good. Don't mind that. It still puts out a good flare right here. This part, I'm just trying to clean out some of the moss out of here. I might put a little bit of soil in there, or I might. No, I think I'm going to reduce the height of the soil right here. I actually really like looking at that. That's pretty cool. I'm going to clean out this part and this part also. This root looks like it's just going straight up right here. Come off. Be taking off just scraggly roots or long knot feeder roots. Take those all off. Oh, it's warm in here. That's my chopstick here. Using metal on the roots is not necessarily a good idea, because if I scrape this over the root here, it doesn't kill it, or it doesn't scratch it. But if I scrape the metal over that, it'll scratch it. So I don't want to damage the bark on the roots here. I'm definitely trying to get down far enough to get a lot of these weeds out of here. I know I said that, but I want to try and make sure I get down far enough that I can get some of the weed seeds out of here too. I know I'm not going to get them all. That's too much to ask. But I've got this root popping up right here. I'm going to try to discover where that's coming from and going to, so I can see if I want to remove it. I think I do want to remove it. Not used to it being hot yet. I am excited for it to be hot. Just not used to it yet. It'll take a couple of weeks. I'm sure there's some of you guys out there saying, yeah, it's not even close to hot yet where I'm at. I apologize. But it is actually starting to warm up here. So I'm going to try and remove this piece here. Try to get in here without completely bare rooting all the way around it. So I don't want to bare root really any of this. I kind of want to dig through the middle here a little bit so I can get some bonsai soil down in here. But if I remember right, when I first potted this, I almost bare rooted it anyway, so I don't think it has a whole lot of field soil in here, or the compost soil from when I had it in the compost growing it for the first year. I don't think it does have a whole lot of that. So this section right here is really solid. There's a root coming across here, which I like. I'm going to leave that. I need to break up the side of this. So you break up the sides of the root ball so that when it goes into the pot, it doesn't just keep wrapping around in circles. You want the roots to venture out into the new soil. And some of these look like really long feeder roots, so I want to shorten them up a little bit, because these are all very immature feeder roots, because they're long and yeah, they're not useless, but they're not as useful as finer feeder roots. I'm going to turn it towards me a little bit here so that I can actually get to it. And try not to bang the camera. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna get in here. Go across the side here, take all this off. It's kind of interesting, it just almost peels off. So the soil, I'll reuse this soil. I have a sifter that I use the sifter and a torch, and I'll actually torch the soil, and it'll remove all the organic material because it'll dry it as I'm torching it, and that will have all the finer particles fall out into a tray like this, and then the roots and stuff, they'll just burn up. So I can reuse the rock portion of it. Right here, this is good. This is looking really good. I want to clean it up a little bit more. See if I can find where the finer roots are and cut it back to some of the finer roots in here. Just get rid of some of the larger stuff. But I'm trying not to destroy all these roots, just trying to clean the soil out of them. And I've got some big stuff like this that I'm going to be taking out. This is that main root that goes into here. I'm going to try and clean this out just a little bit more, see if I can find out where it starts going straight, and maybe cut it off where it starts going straight. This root mat is super, super dense. If I can pull the root out, I will, but if I can't pull it out, I'm just going to cut it off. Just like that. This isn't someplace that I'm thinking about just going in, like chopping at it with the scissors and stuff, but this is probably not the best place to go ahead and do that because I don't know what this actually looks like under here. So I'm going to try and remove as much soil out of here without damaging stuff as I possibly can before I go through and just really cut it back. See if I can break some of this up. I might just leave that. It should be alright. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it. Go ahead and cut this side of the mat off. I am watching this end of the tree. I don't want to damage that or whack the camera with it. Really wish I had a quieter place to work on the trees. Knocking you around with the branches. This tree is a little bit taller than I'm used to working on in here. Plus this greenhouse is getting way too small for me. I'm working on getting the materials to build a bigger greenhouse. I want to build it, kind of want to build it out of wood, just because I think it'll look really nice, and I'm going to use process of treating the wood that it should last quite a while. Hopefully it lasts a really long time. That would be nice, because I know it's not going to be cheap to build a greenhouse. There's some really thick branches in here, or roots. These guys are really thick. We'll cut these back. As you can tell, with an older tree that's been in a pot for a long time, it can be a little bit more time consuming to repot it. Don't let that scare you. You only have to repot trees like this every 2 to 5 years, so I won't have to repot this tree probably for another, I'm gonna say probably another 3 years, because it is still in the development stage, but it's got a really nice root mat, and once this grows out a little bit more, it'll kind of stop growing the roots. It'll still grow, just it'll slow down dramatically. This tree has developed a really nice root flare all by itself, which is really awesome. I hear a lot of times people have to root graft and like fix the roots on their maple trees. And I'm just really glad that this one has a pretty decent root spread already. Something that I don't have to worry about. This year I'm going to do something different than I did last year with the canopy though. Last year I just let it grow. I didn't take off very many leaves. I did a couple of the really large leaves I took off to give room for some of the smaller internal leaves. But this year, after I get a really good flush and the leaves harden off, I'm going to partially defoliate it, taking off like the larger leaves, and see if it will grow some smaller leaves as a second flush of growth. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to. If it doesn't, that could be very detrimental to the tree, but as it's getting ready to push out growth, I'm going to fertilize it pretty good. So hopefully that will encourage a lot of growth right away. And then once I partially defoliate it, then it should be able to cover from it pretty well and put out smaller leaves. And then once it puts out smaller leaves, I'll go ahead and take off the bigger leaves again. And I'm going to see if that improves the ramification this year, because the last couple of years it's pretty much kept the same twigging. I mean, it's got quite a bit of twigging for as young as this tree is, which I don't know exactly how young this tree is. I mean, this tree could be 20 years old. It was in the shaded part of the forest, and it was next to some very large trees, so it might have just been really shaded, and it was kind of up next to a tree stump, so it had shallow roots, so that could have made it not grow quite as fast or whatever. So this tree might be older, but not 100% sure. Alright, so now I'm going to work on the bottom of this, try to reduce the bottom part of the root mat. Just trying to break up the really solid soil that's on the bottom of this. The more freely draining the soil is, the more air is getting into the soil, and the more air the roots can breathe, because the roots need to breathe also. They don't like to live in an anaerobic environment. It is definitely nice to see that all the roots are pretty evenly moist though. That is definitely a good sign. I'm going to try and cut off some of the really fine stuff off the bottom here. Long gingly roots here. Really thick roots I want to take off. And this time of year, springtime, is a really good time to be doing this with your maples, because it's going to start growing again, and that'll promote root growth also. For that, you can repot your maples early spring and also fall. You don't want to plant or repot them when it's already cold. You don't want to repot them when it's already hot. So as it's warming up and as it's cooling down. Alright. I don't know, I think that looks pretty decent. Let me dump this. Got stuff all over me. Alright, so this section here, I do want to dig into this a little bit. I want it to be able to get through that. Getting through the roots like this in this section, and wiggling the chopstick through the roots where you get through it, that gives me a space to put, well, of course it's going to get loud when I'm trying to talk. That gives me a space to put soil through the roots into the underside of the tree. Make sure that the underside is set with soil. I am trying to get as much of the organic material out of the roots as possible here, especially up underneath these roots here, because that'll cause rot on the roots there, and I don't want those to rot. I like how they look. I want to keep them that way. Using the wooden chopstick, I'm not damaging these roots that are in this space, just removing the organic soil out of that space. So I'm working on documents here. I've already got a screen in the bottom of here. It almost fits. Almost, not quite. I'm going to trim both sides down a little bit more. This side has a really large root right here. I'm going to see about cutting this back a little bit right here. Just like that. Sometimes you can pull the roots out after you've cut them, but sometimes you can't. So it's got a main root right here that comes all the way from here, goes all the way out to here. So I'm going to leave that the way it is. It's almost like giving a haircut. That's better. All right. And used up all my wire. I have to strip some more wire. Alright, so I am going to wire this into the pot. I didn't wire it into the last one. Obviously you can't get to the bottom of it. I am going to wire it in here though. That's probably where all my wires are. I've been so busy I haven't been working on trees lately. Okay, bam. Wire sits. And we're going to take some of the larger soil that I have. We'll put that in the bottom part of the pot, right on the screen. We'll put just a layer across the whole bottom of the pot here. There you go. And get myself all dirty with the bucket. Then I'll put the tree, see what it looks like. See if I need to add more soil or take some more roots off. I think I can take some more roots off here, or some more soil out of the bottom of this. First couple of times we repot, we're going to continue to try to remove the thicker roots like this. and then later on, at some point, we won't have to worry about that as much. There'll be a couple, but it won't be as dramatic. Okay. That's much better. Okay, now I'm going to put a layer of the finer soil on top of the coarser soil here. And I'm going to put kind of a mound in the middle so I can work the roots down into it, because see how it sits up really high. Make sure everybody's seeing what. Now you can see it. See how it kind of sits up a little bit higher in the pot here. So I'm going to wiggle the tree and push down as I'm holding the pot. And that's going to, it wiggles the roots down into the soil to get soil up into the roots that are hanging down. It also flattens out the tree into the pot here. Alright, so it should work alright. Like I've said before with the wire, you want it tight, but you don't want to break stuff by making it too tight. So on this one, I'm going to be a little bit more careful because I got it going across the top of a root here. I don't necessarily want it going across the top of that. I might go under it. See if I can get it to go under. There we go. There we go, just like that. There's really nothing on this side that I'm too worried about. Maybe there is. There we go. Alright, there we go. Yeah, that's not gonna work. You need to just use this guy. Alright, so now I'm going to fill in around the edges. I'm going to do one side at a time because I really want to make sure and get the soil under the root the root ball right here, all the way around the edges. Make sure it gets up underneath of there. I'm gonna go from all the different directions that I can get from or get to, so get the soil to go underneath. We want to work the soil in there nice and tight, but we don't want to be so rough with it that we damage the roots. So maybe be firm enough that it's getting in there, but not so firm that you're messing things up. She feels like it's a little bit high in the pot, so it'll be alright though. It'll be alright. You want to keep working the soil down in there until it feels nice and solid. You wiggle the chopstick around, it just pours in there, then it's not done. There's still space. So and I have the wire tight enough that it's not going to just raise the tree out of the pot as I'm pushing soil underneath of the tree. Doing a repot like this, the biggest part is making sure to get the soil under the tree and tight around the edges of the tree. I'm going to make sure I'm filling in this section here. That. There we go. That looks pretty good. This root flare, or this flare over here, is pretty sweet. I really like this. It's relatively even all the way around the tree, actually, which I really like that. So I'm going to brush off a little bit off the top here. I don't like to water my trees and the soil go all over the ground. So that moss that I saved from this tree originally, I'm not a big fan of that moss with a tree of this size, because that moss just looks really large for a tree that I'm trying to make look much bigger. So this is it's a maple tree. It's a relatively large tree, but it's still, I mean, its trunk isn't super thick yet. So I want to use a smaller moss on here. If I can find which one I want to grab. So I got some of this stuff here. It's a really, really fine moss. So I'm going to lay this out on the pot here. I'm going to work it down into the soil just a little bit. I've seen multiple different ways you can collect and put moss on your trees. You can use sphagnum moss, and then you can use moss that you collect and grind up the moss you collect into the sphagnum moss and grind them all together and lay it out on the tree, and it'll evenly coat the tree after a while. I like putting pads of the moss on here. For me, it just kind of more of an instant gratification type of thing, I guess. Not that it's better one way or the other, or it might actually be better the other way, but this seems to work out pretty well for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this. I'm gonna kind of avoid going right up against the roots. I think there's enough left in here to grow again. Actually, I think I did have the finer moss in here. So I think this is part of it. So I'm gonna kind of push it down into soil, working it in, kind of like your roots of the tree. And damaging this a little bit is just gonna spread it out. It's not gonna hurt it. Yeah, because see, this is actually from the tree, and this is the larger stuff that I was talking about. I don't want that. I want to take the larger stones out of here. If you didn't know, moss has roots also. So you kind of want to push the roots down into the rocks. That's what we're doing, is pushing the roots down into the rocks. Right up in here. Alright, so there is that. Pretty much how this is going to be for a little while. This moss will start spreading over the top of here, and hopefully soon the buds will pop out, and then I can show you that. So I'm going to give you guys a spin around to the tree. I'm going to bring the camera back out so you can see the whole tree. Maybe. There we go. There's a rather tall tree. It's really cool. I really like this tree. Alright, so I really appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you watched to the end, or if not, hopefully you fast forwarded to the end and were able to see the final product of the tree. It was pretty good in my opinion. I really like it. I'm really excited about seeing this tree grow this year. Pretty sweet. I really like it. Noticing a couple of things that I want to change this tree. I think I'm going to do that right now. Right here, I'm gonna bring you in closer so you can see that, what I'm looking at. Something maybe I didn't notice while I was working on it before. And let's see if I can, there we go. Put a better angle on it. Where are we at? Right here. That's what I'm looking at. So if you can see that, maybe I'll just lift the camera up here. Bring it in. If you can see this, this looks really fat. And I don't know if that actually looked like that earlier when I worked on this tree or not. I can't remember. But this is also sticking straight up. And this is super fat right here. There's a bud and a branch. If I can get it to focus. Yeah, you can see it. There's a bud and a branch right here. So I'm going to cut it back to that right here. I'm going to take this piece off. So that it will grow properly this coming season. Alright, so I'm going to take this off first. Just like that. It just looks really weird to me anyway. But if you want to know, the cambium layer is green. So the tree is alive here. I'm going to cut this off too. I don't like this going straight up. There we go. Yeah, just like that. This I'm not as worried about being straight up and down right this minute. Maybe I will be later. Maybe I will be now, but I think I'll deal with this later on once this starts growing, if it does. If it doesn't, then that's all I've got right there. I might have to leave that or bend it or something like that. So we'll leave that for now. All right, I think that's going to do it. Yep, that's going to do it. All right. All right, so thank you for watching, and see you on the next one.